Hey everybody, welcome to a new video. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than what I normally do for like a top 10 list or any type of a list that I might do on my channel. Um, so recently, not really recently, but fairly recently, I would say earlier within 2019, a YouTube channel that I watch on occasion is Sean Chandler Talks About. It's a channel about movies and movie reviews and stuff like that. Stuff that I would really like, obviously, since that's kind of the stuff that I usually do anyway. But one video that he did that kind of struck me as interesting and something that I kind of wanted to try myself was doing a favorite film for every year that you've been alive thus far, and kind of like picking a favorite film from that year. It doesn't have to be like an all-time favorite or anything like that, because I very much doubt every single year you have like a film that like will stand the test of time and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, these are all films that I've searched through all the years that these films were released in and things like that. And each title that I chose for each year kind of stood out to me the most. It's kind of a film that either I've gone back to the most, or it's a personal favorite of mine, or there's something about said film that I'm probably going to cover here in a little bit that kind of spoke to me in some way over the years, or something I've returned to over the years a lot. So that's really what this whole list is about. So I'm calling it 29 years of movies, 29 years of favorites, because I'm 29 years old right now. And so basically I'm going to go from the year I was born all the way to the present. And for each of those years that I've been alive, I'm going to list you my favorite film and all that good stuff. So let's get started. I'm hoping to keep this as a two-part video because there's a lot of films I got to cover here, about 29 films actually. So hopefully I can keep it within two parts, but it'll be three parts, and you might notice that here on my channel if you want to watch the whole video. So let's try to keep it in two parts, but if I have to go three, it's going to have to be three parts. So let's start at 1990, the year I was born. My favorite film from that year was Home Alone. I love that movie. I've gone back to it so many times over the years. It helps that I'm a huge Johnny Hughes fan. Though he didn't direct the film, he did write it and produce it for Chris Columbus, who actually did direct the movie. It's just one of those films where it's just so unique and so special. It has a lot to say about like family traditions, a lot to say about what exactly would you do if you were home alone while your parents were away and your family was away. It's just kind of a unique movie. It's a movie where you as a kid are kind of put in the spotlight, and the director of this film and the writer of this film kind of asks you yourself as you're watching it, what would you do if you were in Kevin McAllister's situation? Would you party? Would you just be scared to death until your parents arrived? What would you do if these burglars arrived at your house and wanted to steal everything? I mean, what would you do? So it's one of those films where it's kind of an interesting scenario, has tons of comedy. It's just a film that really resonates with me and really stands out to me. I also really like the sequel too. It didn't make this cut for this specific list, but it's a sequel that I really enjoy, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. But Home Alone is my favorite film in 1990. Like I said, it was the year I was born and all that stuff. I even play the video game every once in a while. I still have the Game Boy game from back in the day. So my favorite film from 1990 is Home Alone. My favorite film of 1991, when I was only 1 year old. Obviously, I didn't see it then. I saw it at a way later time in my life. But as far as a 1991 film goes for that year, Terminator 2 Judgment Day was my favorite film from 1991. It's such a great action movie. It's a perfect example of how to treat a sequel. James Cameron made everything bigger for the sequel. He went in more directions. He was more ambitious with the sequel. He did more with the special effects. It's just a film that's just really interesting about time travel and what would you do and how would you handle this intense situation if you were in Sarah Connor's position or John Connor's position? What if everybody thinks you're crazy? How exactly would you go about that? So Terminator 2 Judgment Day answers all these questions. It creates even more interesting scenarios, even more so than the first film did. It takes John Connor, Sarah Connor, even Kyle Reese's spirit, even though he's not in the second one, from obvious reasons for those who saw the first one. It's just an interesting movie, interesting directions, great action scenes all around. A lot of the action scenes still hold up to this day, and even some of the special effects are from 1991, still look great to this day. It's just a film that I just absolutely love. It's probably one of my favorite James Cameron films of all time, and he's made a lot of really good ones. That's my favorite film from 1991. In 1992, we have the Western film Unforgiven from director Clint Eastwood. I believe he wrote the film as well, as far as I know. But it's a film that I absolutely love. It's just a great, different take on a Western film. It really shows you kind of What if the cowboys aren't these big, macho, strong guys that can do anything in the West? What if it's kind of a different direction? What if they're older? What if they're kind of grizzled and can't really do the stuff they used to do when they were younger, and they're taking on these bandits and these really horrible people in the small town that are really unforgiving and really will go out of their way to do horrible things. How exactly would they go about that at their old age? Since Morgan Freeman and Clint Eastwood and a bunch of older actors were in this movie, it's such a great, different kind of Western film. It has such a sense of realism to it that a lot of earlier Westerns from Clint Eastwood and John Wayne didn't dare to kind of attempt before. Those films are more so in like a fantasy realm. Unforgiven takes a more realistic approach on the West, and it's just such a terrific film that I've gone back to so many times over the years. It's my favorite film from 1992, and apparently it's the favorite film from the Film Academy. It won Best Picture that year. In 1993, we have Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. I love this movie. Yes, maybe it's not exactly the way that Bruce Lee's life played out, but for being a film that's in spirit of Bruce Lee action movies, for being a film that's trying to show you the spirit of being human and go out and pursuing your dreams no matter who tells you you can't do it, no matter what tells you you can't do it, no matter what culture tells you you can't do it. Bruce Lee achieved the impossible. He was able to get people to believe in philosophy and martial arts and be able to convince them to kind of show him the way of his culture and things like that, and kind of what he did for the film industry and for television. And it's just a terrific, great biopic movie that just really hits all the right notes for a biopic movie. I just can't stop watching it. I replay it all the time. I have it on repeat so many times over the years. I just keep going back to it for whatever reason. It's such a terrific, great, well-crafted movie. It's my favorite film from 1993, and probably one of my favorite films of all time, too. We have another favorite film of all time that came out in 1994 for me, and that's a tough year. Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, and Forrest Gump all came out in the same year, so very hard top favorite film from that year to choose from, but I'm probably going to go with what the Film Academy did and choose the film that really stands out to me the most, and that's Forrest Gump. It's such a terrific movie. It has so many great things to say about life and about how to go about life and how people come and go from your life and how to go about it and how to achieve things and how to bring out the best in yourself and to help others and to really kind of take your own story and make it interesting and kind of figure out what makes people kind of intrigued by you if you have something interesting to say and something interesting that you've done, and just going out there and finding more about yourself and making friends and just all that good stuff. It really has everything to say about life in it. It's just a terrific film that I go back to all the time. It's my favorite film in 1994, and once again, that's Forrest Gump. At 1995, and this is actually a film I actually remember seeing in theaters when I was 5 years old, so it's kind of one of the first films on my list I actually legitimately saw that year, and that's Toy Story. Love this movie. It was so revolutionary for the time. The animation was just so different and so unique, and obviously it's still going to this day with CGI animation, and just the story itself is really good. Just the concept itself is really good. Just the fact that when I was younger and really playing with my own imagination a lot, I really kind of believed that toys kind of had the secret life of themselves, basically because Toy Story was so good at kind of telling what the rules of that world would be and kind of what they're doing when the kid and the parents aren't in the room with whenever the toys kind of have their own little life and have friends and enemies with each other. Such a unique concept for a movie. It was kind of Pixar's first big spotlight movie that kind of made them the company that they are today. And like I said, I actually remember legitimately seeing in the theater when I was younger. It's such a big and important movie, such a big and important step for animation. It's my favorite film from 1995 for good reason. At 1996, this is kind of a different choice. Maybe it's probably not the best well-crafted film of this year, but it was kind of the film that stood out to me when I was looking at films that came out in 1996. Another film that I actually legitimately seen when I was this age, in the theater seeing it, and that's Matilda. It's actually a very good book too if you've never read the book from Roald Dahl. Very good story. I like how it really convinces kids and just people in general to pursue your passion. Really, if you have some something that you're intrigued by, something you want to learn more about, go out and pursue it. Just go out and do it. Matilda, her parents didn't believe in reading or anything, so she just had to go out to a library one day and do it. So it's just one of those movies where it's like, be yourself, go out and do what you love. Don't be afraid to discover things. Don't be afraid to learn new things about yourself if the opportunity arises. It's such a terrific, great story. This poor little girl grew up in this really horrible house, and so she really kind of had to learn things on her own. And so Matilda kind of takes that message to its advantage and really pursue it in its fullest potential. And it's such a terrific, great movie. It's my favorite film from 1996. At 1997, I actually saw this film at a much later time in my life, but looking back at 1997, this is a film that I really enjoy and probably will go back to numerous times over the years just because of how unique and special it is. And that's the Robert Zemeckis film Contact. This was his follow-up to Forrest Gump, and it's a very special, great movie. It's not quite as good as Forrest Gump, but it is Robert Zemeckis, and I love a ton of the films that he's worked on, Back to the Future and Forrest Gump and all that good stuff. Who Framed Roger Rabbit also. But Contact was so unique and different in the sense that it's a film about aliens, but it's not really about the aliens. It's about this young girl who really believes that there's something out there, there's a way we can contact extraterrestrial life somehow, some way. We're going to come across them somehow. We're going to have to do something very big and special to kind of meet these aliens and communicate with them and things like that. And so I like this idea of this film about this young woman played by Jodie Foster, and obviously we see her progress as she gets older, who really believes the impossible and really kind of is patient with these satellites and patient with learning about these aliens that are just as interested about us. And it's one of those films too, I think why I like it so much too, is it really kind of makes you believe in life again. It really makes you believe that other forms of life believe in us, we believe in them. It's just one of those things where we're so interested in kind of learning about ourselves and learning why we're here and what's out there and things. It's such a beautiful, great movie that answers so many questions and brings up more questions that maybe we didn't even think of before. And it's such a special, different, unique sci-fi film that I just love to death. There's a scene that I can't spoil involving Jodie Foster and what appears to be a human that she knows from her life. And it happens near the end of the movie. Like I said, I can't spoil it. For those who saw the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about. But it happens near the end of the movie, and it's such a special, great scene. It's just, I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's my favorite film from 1997. In 1998, we have There's Something About Mary. I love the Farley brothers, and There's Something About Mary is a great example of why I love them so much. They're out there. They're willing to try daring things. It's funny. It explores territories that films weren't able to explore before. It's just so funny. It's so different. It's so out there. I just love it. I just love how out there it is and so funny. And it really pushes the boundaries of what you can do in a comedy and things like that. It definitely set up the ground for like American Pie and things that came out afterward. Very out there movie that's just absolutely hilarious. I can't recommend There's Something About Mary enough. It's just such a funny, great movie. It's my favorite film from 1998. So I'm going to stop part one here. You guys will return with 1999, which is a very important movie year for those who watch movies. It's so many great films came out that year. So be sure to come back for part two, and hopefully I will be able to explore even more films in that list and that video.